the world changed in an instant. The familiar rhythm of life with morning preparations, commutes to the office, and a clear division of space into home and work suddenly vanished. Millions of people across the planet found themselves confined to their apartments, turning bedrooms into offices and kitchen tables into workspaces. Remote work ceased to be a privilege of the few and became the new norm. But what happens when the line between the office and home comfort blurs? When a laptop on your lap replaces a desk and house slippers become office footwear? Beneath the outward simplicity and comfort lies a whole complex of psychological challenges. For the first few months, many perceived it as long-awaited freedom. No morning traffic, strict dress codes, or intrusive control. However, the euphoria soon gave way to an unsettling realization. Work, devoid of physical boundaries, began to consume more and more personal space and time. The human psyche, not evolutionarily adapted to such an intermingling of life spheres, found itself under attack. The freedom to work in pajamas, answer emails from the beach, and forget about boss oversight. That's how many envision remote work. This image is actively promoted by bloggers and digital platform advertising. But how much does reality align with these rosy pictures? The truth turns out to be more complex and ambiguous. Behind the facade of apparent freedom lie new, sometimes more sophisticated forms of control. Activity trackers, constant monitoring of online status, mandatory video conferences at specific times. The digital world has created its own surveillance system. Many companies implement programs that track every cursor movement and count keystrokes. Psychologically, this creates the effect of a constant, invisible observer, which can cause even greater stress than the physical presence of a manager. Why is the myth of complete freedom so appealing? The roots of this illusion run deep into our subconscious. Humans have always strived for autonomy and independence. Remote work seems to embody this dream, offering liberation from external constraints. But the paradox is that without structure, many people get lost. Internal limitations turn out to be no less rigid than external ones. The freedom to choose work hours transforms into a constant feeling of guilt for insufficient productivity. The absence of clear boundaries creates the illusion that one can always work, which means one must always work. Remember how we used to clearly separate our time? 8 hours in the office, then freedom. A call from work after 6 in the evening was considered almost an invasion of personal space. Remote work shattered these barriers with a click of a mouse. Now the workday can begin with checking emails while still in bed and end with a late-night call with colleagues from a different time zone. Imperceptibly, we find ourselves in a state of constant engagement, checking notifications during dinner, replying to messages on weekends, keeping the laptop open during a family movie night. Our brain no longer receives clear signals for switching modes. There's no physical commute from the office to home, no change of scenery that would say, "Work is done." Instead, a blurred state of semi-work, semi-rest, where we're seemingly free, but constantly have our finger on the pulse of work processes. Psychologically, this creates the effect of an unfinished gestalt, a feeling that work is never truly completed. We live with guilt over underworked hours and anxiety about missing something important. Studies show people working remotely work on average 2 to 3 hours more than in the office. But it's not just about the number of hours. The very quality of attention changes. Even during moments of rest, a part of our consciousness remains in work mode. This leads to chronic stress and nervous exhaustion. Remember that feeling of excitement when you first started working from home? The freedom to plan, no dress code, the ability to customize your workspace. All this brought a surge of enthusiasm. But what happens to our motivation when the initial euphoria fades? Psychologists identify several stages of adaptation to the remote format. Initially, we experience inspiration from new opportunities. Productivity grows, and there's a sense of control over one's life. But gradually, a phase of disappointment sets in. Home distractions, technical glitches, and the lack of live communication with colleagues begin to erode internal drive. We notice ourselves postponing tasks, procrastinating, looking for any excuse not to sit down at the computer. Motivation melts away before our eyes, and guilt only amplifies emotional burnout. Internal stimuli, such as interest in work and professional growth, give way to external control, deadlines, and management demands. We start working not because we want to, but because we have to. Those who are used to getting energy from a team are especially vulnerable. Virtual meetings cannot fully replace the energetic exchange of live communication. When we lose this resource, our internal battery gradually drains. The motivational crisis is exacerbated by the lack of visible results and recognition. In the office, a supervisor's praise, or even just a colleague's smile, served as instant reinforcement. In the digital space, these signals become blurred or disappear entirely. When our workplace shifted to the digital space, not only the environment changed, but also how we perceive ourselves in a professional context. Self-esteem, this fragile internal compass, begins to operate on new principles. In the office, we constantly received feedback. A nod of approval from the boss, spontaneous praise from a colleague, or even just a look that said, "Great job." In a virtual environment, these micro-signals disappear. Instead, there's the silence of messengers and rare comments in documents. We send our work into the digital space and sometimes wait for hours for a reaction, guessing how it was received. This informational void becomes fertile ground for a variety of interpretations. The human brain tends to fill in gaps, and often does so with negative assumptions. The absence of an immediate response turns into a certainty that the work was done poorly. The silence of colleagues is perceived as disapproval. We begin to doubt our competence without objective reasons. Paradoxically, even highly professional specialists can experience imposter syndrome when working remotely. Without daily confirmation of one's value through live communication, there's a feeling that your achievements are accidental and your mistakes are indicative. The criteria for success also transform. If before, teamwork, conflict resolution skills, and quick reaction to situations were important, now self-organization, written communication, and digital productivity come to the forefront. Not everyone can easily adapt to the new requirements. A person who's shown in office meetings may feel lost in the world of text messages and spreadsheets. And vice versa. Introverts, who were uncomfortable in a noisy office, find that they are valued more when their results speak for themselves. Paradoxically, in the era of hyperconnectivity, we've encountered a new form of loneliness. Dozens of messenger messages, endless video calls, and constant notifications create the illusion of communication. But they don't fill the emotional vacuum that arises from the absence of live contact. Our brain is evolutionarily attuned to reading subtle cues of human presence. Nonverbal gestures, tone of voice, the energy of a space. Digital communication deprives us of these subtle yet critically important elements of interaction. We see colleagues' faces in small Zoom windows, but we don't feel their presence. We hear voices distorted by digital filters, but we lose the emotional overtones. Social ties thin out, turning into a functional exchange of information. This is felt particularly acutely by extroverts, accustomed to being energized by the collective. For them, a day without spontaneous conversations by the coffee machine or jokes during lunch breaks turns into an emotional desert. But introverts also suffer, losing the structured, measured social interaction that the office provided. Studies show that prolonged work in isolation leads to a decrease in oxytocin levels, the hormone of attachment and trust. We become more suspicious, more often interpret neutral messages as negative, and react more sharply to criticism. Professional relationships, devoid of personal context, become impoverished. A colleague turns into an avatar and a manager into a source of tasks. Team spirit is lost, corporate culture blurs. We no longer feel part of something larger, only lonely performers in front of a screen. Digital loneliness is further exacerbated by the fact that our loved ones, physically present nearby, psychologically perceive us as working, even when we are just sitting at home. A strange dissonance arises. We are simultaneously at home and not at home, with people and in isolation. The space in which we work affects us more profoundly than we realize. When your home office is a corner of the bedroom or the kitchen table, the psyche receives conflicting signals. A place associated with rest suddenly demands concentration and productivity. The brain is disoriented. Do I relax here, or do I exert myself? Research shows that the physical environment directly influences cognitive processes. Even small changes in space organization can significantly increase productivity, or, conversely, amplify stress. The key principle of a psychologically healthy home office is functional zoning. Our brain responds to spatial anchors, visual and tactile cues that say, "Now it's time to work," or "Now it's time to rest." Designate a separate area for work, even if it's just a specific chair at a shared table. Use psychological triggers for switching modes, a special lamp you only turn on during work, or a work sweater you put on at the start of the day and take off when you finish. These simple rituals create clear signals for the brain about a change in activity. Avoid working in bed or on the sofa. Places of rest should remain sacred territories of recovery. If space is limited, use visual barriers, a screen, a curtain, or even just a different orientation of the table. Light plays a critical role in our psychological state. Natural lighting increases concentration and reduces fatigue. Position your workspace near a window, but avoid direct sunlight, which creates glare on the screen and causes additional eye strain. Have you ever noticed a strange state at the end of a workday? Your eyes feel as if covered in sand, your head buzzes, and your thoughts get tangled, even though physically you just sat at the computer. This isn't ordinary fatigue, it's digital exhaustion, a new type of burnout born in the era of remote work. Digital fatigue, as psychologists call this phenomenon, has a unique nature, different from classic work stress. Our brain didn't evolve to process an endless stream of digital information. Screens emit blue light, suppressing melatonin production and disrupting circadian rhythms. Constant notifications, video calls, and switching between tasks cause sensory overload. We think multitasking is our trump card, but neurobiology says otherwise. Each shift of attention depletes a limited resource of cognitive energy. After 8 hours of video conferences, we feel depleted for a reason. Our brain worked at its limit, processing nonverbal cues through a distorted digital channel. It's important to understand, digital fatigue differs from ordinary tiredness. With classic work stress, specific tasks wear us out. With digital exhaustion, the very ability to concentrate suffers. This isn't just fatigue, it's information oversaturation, when the brain starts to shut down perception to protect itself. Have you noticed how, after a long day of online meetings, You simply can't process new information? This is a protective mechanism, a signal that your nervous system needs a reboot. Working from home requires not just the physical organization of space, but also the creation of psychological barriers that protect our mental health. How can we build these invisible yet vital boundaries? Let's start with the most effective tool: temporal structuring. Establish clear working hours and adhere to them with the same strictness as if you were going to an office. Inform colleagues and loved ones about this schedule. When those around you know your working hours, they are more likely to respect them. Rituals for starting and ending the day play a key role in psychological switching. A morning ritual might include changing into work clothes, a short walk, even if it's just a stroll around the house, or preparing a special drink that you only consume during work hours. The evening ritual is even more crucial. It signals to the brain that the workday is over. Close all work programs. Turn off your computer. Don't just put it to sleep. Put away work materials in a drawer or cover them with a cloth. Many find it helpful to make a list of completed tasks and plans for tomorrow. This creates a sense of a closed gestalt. The technique of quote after work becomes a necessity, not a luxury. Set a time when you stop checking work emails and responding to messages. Use different devices or at least different browsers and accounts for work and personal life. Configure notifications so that work alerts don't bother you during non-working hours. Pay special attention to physical movement. Our brain is evolutionarily accustomed to changing locations as a signal of changing activities. Even if your home office is a corner of a room, physically leave that spot after work. Go for a short walk, simulating returning home. This simple action triggers switching processes in the brain and helps leave work thoughts in the office. Forming new habits is key to long-term adaptation in remote work. Habit science states that establishing a new behavioral pattern requires 21 to 66 days of regular practice. This means that the first 2 months of remote work are a critical period, laying the foundation for your future psychological well-being. Our brain craves predictability. Routine, which many consider boring, actually serves as a powerful stabilizer of mental state. When the external world becomes unpredictable, internal rituals create a sense of control and security. Start with a morning routine. Wake up at the same time, even if you don't need to rush anywhere. Dress as if you're leaving the house. This psychologically sets you up for work. Replace your commute to the office with a short walk or physical activity. Studies show that people who maintain clear time blocks for work demonstrate higher productivity and lower stress levels. The Pomodoro technique. 25 minutes of concentrated work followed by a 5-minute break is particularly effective at home. It accounts for natural attention cycles and prevents burnout. Paradoxically, ritualizing rest is critically important for forming healthy work habits. Scheduled breaks are just as sacred as working hours. Step away from the screen, do some physical exercise, look out the window at a distant object. This relieves digital strain and restores cognitive resources. What happens to our brain when the digital office becomes a permanent reality? Scientists are only just beginning to study the long-term effects of remote work on the human psyche. But interesting trends are already emerging. Our brain is an astonishingly plastic organ, capable of adapting to a wide variety of conditions. In the context of remote work, this adaptation manifests as changes in neural connections responsible for concentration, social interaction, and emotional intelligence. Studies show that with prolonged digital work, activity in the frontal lobe of the cerebral cortex, responsible for planning and self-control, significantly increases. We are literally training our brains to cope with distractions and to structure time independently. This can lead to a strengthening of executive functions, a kind of cognitive muscle that grows stronger with regular exertion. However, there is also a downside. Brain areas responsible for nonverbal communication and empathy can atrophy in the absence of face-to-face interaction. We are evolutionarily wired to read microsignals, subtle facial muscle movements, changes in vocal tone, body language. When these information channels are limited by a screen, our ability to accurately interpret the emotions of others gradually diminishes. This can lead to the formation of a new type of social interaction, more straightforward, less emotionally nuanced. We have come a long way from the confusion of the first days of remote work to the conscious construction of a new work reality. Now it's time to gather all the acquired knowledge and form a personal strategy for psychological resilience. Remote work is not a temporary phenomenon, but a new norm, requiring thoughtful integration into our lives. The key to balance is not a rigid separation of work and personal life, but their harmonious combination on your terms. Create your individual remote work code, including 4 main components: spatial boundaries, temporal structure, communication rules, and recovery rituals. For each person, this code will be unique, considering character traits, profession, and life circumstances. An introvert may need planned social interaction, while an extrovert may need protection from information overload. Parents of young children need special concentration strategies, and those living alone need ways to maintain social connections. The future of labor relations is moving towards a hybrid model, combining the advantages of the office and remote work. Prepare for this evolution by developing digital literacy and self-management skills. Remember, our psyche is incredibly adaptable. What seems like stress today can become a source of new growth opportunities tomorrow. Remote work is not just a change in the workplace, but a transformation of the very concept of work and its role in our lives.